My husband and his first love were entwined in a car, leading to carbon monoxide poisoning. I turned to my son for help, then scared and helpless, crying uncontrollably. Charlie, your dad and Delia are poisoned, and my teacher impatiently scolded me. Can you stop causing trouble? I've told you. Dad and Aunt Delia are just old friends. Why won't this end? Ella has heart problems, and I don't have time to deal with your nonsense. Before I could respond, Charlie hung up, with tears in my eye. I helplessly looked at the two unconscious, naked bodies in the car, sighing. I thought, if you died like this, how long would it take for me to spend this vast fortune? I had initially gone downstairs to find the cat. In the underground parking garage, I noticed a fake figure in our newly purchased luxury car, stealing my cell. I approached for a closer look. Inside the car were two naked bodies tangled together, a man who was my uptight, disciplined husband, Kennedy, and a woman who was his first love, Delia. Tears streamed down my face. I felt utterly weak, vulnerable, and heartbroken. I reflected on my life. I hadn't experienced the hardships of life, but I had certainly suffered in love. As the only daughter, I had been coddled by my parents and knew little of the world. I graduated from college without ever having worked today. The Miller family and mine were a good match. Before marrying Kennedy, I was unaware he had a deep-seated campus first love. Unfortunately, his parents forced them to break up due to her poor background. Delia took the severance package his parents offered and married someone back home, cutting off any hope Kennedy had for her. Kennedy was handsome and captured my heart. He was also ambitious. Thanks to our family's strong union, the Kennedy Group flourished under his leadership, becoming one of the top enterprises. He didn't like my delicate demeanor, but he did appreciate my performance in bed. I found him strange. Could he have two faces, one in bed and another outside it? When our son, Charlie, was born, I suffered severe blood loss and nearly died on the operating table, which made me love him even more. But Charlie was a carbon copy of his father, serious, and not one for laughter. Both he and Kennedy disapproved of my crying. From a young age, Charlie idolized his dad, even though Kennedy was indifferent to him. I raised him alone, yet his heart remained with his father. At just 7 years old, he critiqued me. Dad likes strong women who can fight alongside him. He isn't like you, a lady who only knows how to shop. Mom, you've lived your whole life as a useless pampered wife. Don't you find that meaningless? But I found it quite meaningful. I had everything handed to me: luxury cars, grand house, and diamondishi. Would I find it interesting? Was it my fault I was born into wealth? Did I have to suffer to find meaning? They both enjoyed pointing out my flaws, but what could I do? I was a romantic, and I cared about appearances. Whenever I got upset, I'd look at their faces, and then at the balance in my bank account, and it'd calm down. To prove I was useless and that I could also build a career, I generously donated $100 million to a prestigious university for building renovation, which secured me a position as a librarian. I diligently worked until retirement, all over the years. I also supported many high-achieving, impoverished students, recommending them for jobs at the Kennedy Group after graduation. In a way, was my own version of nurturing talent. Without Delia, my life could have been smooth sailing. But when did I discover Delia's existence? About 6 months ago, I accidentally stumbled upon Kennedy's diary. It revealed that he had a fixed month-long business trip every year to visit his first love in. Delia hadn't become a strong woman. Instead, she became a housewife, worn out by life, and Kennedy became her last consolation. They traveled around the country, taking countless photos together. My heart shattered. Kennedy had never taken me on a trip, not even for our honeymoon. I pleaded with him to travel. I only received his cold, $1 million bank transfers. I have too much work. I can't take time off to go with you. If you want to travel, go on your own. I had to wipe my tears and fly around the world alone. I went to Antarctica to see penguins, watched the northern lights in Iceland, basked in the sun in Hawaii, and splurged in luxury stores. So many handsome men tried to flirt with me during my travel, but I kept my boundaries. purely enjoying the scenery. My loyalty was met with Kennedy's betrayal. I was crushed and angrily confronted Kennedy. But all I received was his cold bank transfer and a dismissive explanation. Delia and I are just friends. Don't overthink it. You want a nice handbag? Buy a few for yourself. I bought a bag but was still furious. I complained to my son Charlie. Instead of standing up for me, he defended his dad. Mom, it's normal for a man to have a confidant these days. Do you have to stir up chaos at home to feel satisfied? Dad introduced me to Aunt Delia when I was 8. She's really a good woman, tainal and virtuous. Not the kind to ruin someone's family. At them, I felt like the sky was falling. I felt like I had raised in great. I said, have I treated you badly? How can you side with your dad's mistress? When you had kidney problems, I risked my life to give you my kidney. Have you forgotten? Charlie's face darkened. What do you mean? Are you trying to guilt trip me? Should I take out my kidney and give it back to you? I can return my life to you if that makes you happy. After that argument, Charlie became even colder towards me, which broke my heart. I blocked his contact information. Remembering those past events left me utterly devastated, crying until I could barely catch my breath. After sobbing for half an hour, I suddenly felt something was off. Why hadn't Kennedy and Delia made any noise despite my tears? And a confrontation could be exhausting, but surely they wouldn't let sleep so soundly. I quickly got up and pressed my face against the car window to look inside. I saw the skin of their bodies glowing cherry red, soft pink, a sight that resembled post-orgasm flush. In reality, it was clearly a symptom of carbon monoxide poisoning. I was terrified. I unblocked Charlie's number and hurriedly called him. I dialed over a dozen times with no answer. My stubbornness kicked in. If he wouldn't answer, I'd keep calling until he did. I persevered for half an hour before he finally picked up. I was so scared, so helpless, so pitiful. I cried out in a trembling voice, Charlie, you need to come back. Your dad and Delia are about to die. Perhaps I was choking on my tears too much. Charlie thought I was playing a trick on him, his voice laced with irritation. Can you not make a scene? I'm in a meeting. I don't have time for your theatric. Heartbroken, the real heartbreak was the loud arguments. My heart ached terribly, and I struggled to calm myself. In not lying, they really are. Darren Chafflery cut me off, clearly exasperated. You're old enough to stop making trouble. I've said it 100 times. My dad and Aunt Delia are just old friends. How can you be so malicious and wish them dead? What kind of mother are you? You keep stirring things up and making our home a mess. When will this end? They're dying. Call 120. Why are you calling me? I couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears. They're both naked, not wearing a stitch of clothing. How can I call 120? They're over 100 years old combined. How embarrassing and shameful would it be if that got out? Curly was furious. You're spreading rumors. I knew. He still didn't believe me, and I felt deeply wronged. Why was there no trust between us? Was this a moral decline or a distortion of humanity? Just as I was drowning in sorrow, I heard Delia's daughter Ella on the other end. Charlie, ain't I causing you trouble again? Doesn't she understand your feelings at all? I gritted my teeth in anger. That Vic was trying to sow discord. One significant reason Charlie defended Delia was that he had grown up with Ella. At 8, after meeting Delia and her daughter, he had been enchanted by Ella. Both he and his father were infatuation, a with his mom, the other with his daughter. What a fitting pair they were. I couldn't help but ask, aren't you in a meeting? Why is Ella with you? Before Charlie could answer, I heard Ella's weak voice, sounding pitiful. Charlie, my heart hurts so much, Shirley shouted in concern. The next second, the line went dead with a beeping sound. When I called back, no one picked up. Looking at the two naked bodies in the car, I threw my head back and howled, overwhelmed with despair. What was I going to do? The butler's son was getting married, and I had given the household staff time off to attend the wedding. Now, I was all alone. As a pampered housewife who never lifted a finger, how could I save anyone? But there was a glimmer of hope. I decided to knock on the neighbor's door for help. After all, we were neighbors. And I thought they would be considerate and wouldn't spread the scandal of old lust disgrace. Clementine, my neighbor, is a dear friend and a well-known social media influencer. When she heard I was in trouble, she was very eager to help. But when she saw the naked couple in the car, Clementine gasped, Ida? Maybe it's better to just let them die. Tears streamed down my face. Even though old Lou wronged me, he's still my husband. I called my son, but he doesn't believe me, and I don't know what to do. Clementine picked up her phone and kept changing angles, snapping pictures of Kennedy and Delia's rosy body. I looked at her, puzzled. She chuckled awkwardly. It's just my professional habit. Don't worry, Ida, I won't send it out. I nodded, feeling anxious. Please hurry and take them to the hospital. I read that the best time for treating carbon monoxide poisoning is 4 to 6 hours. If it's too late, it might be too late. Clementine immediately drove off, rushing the two of them to a hospital under the Kennedy Group. We sped along the way, arriving at the hospital as quickly as possible. Just as the medical staff was about to lift them onto the stretcher, I realized I had forgotten to cover them up. In a panic, I grabbed their clothes from the car. I placed a bra over Kennedy's head and a pair of panties over Delia, perfectly concealing their faces. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Kemi was someone who cared deeply about his reputation. So this would work. Not only did it save his face, but it also helped preserve the dignity of his first love. I had done my best. Kennedy and Delia were wheeled into the emergency room, garnering quite a few curious glances. Clementine was laughing like a rooster crowing. I turned back to her with a heavy heart. She quickly swallowed her laughter and said, I'm sorry. I'm just naturally cheerful. I didn't mean anything by it. She had helped me so much that I couldn't possibly blame her. I shook my head gently and stayed silent. Waited. Before long, a doctor rushed out and asked, Who's the patient's family? I quickly approached him. Wrong, doctor. Did the patient die? The doctor frowned, saying, The patients are in critical condition. They were brought in late, and the shock caused several cardiac arrests. We managed to restore their heartbeat, but there are severe complications. Hearing this, I felt like the sky was falling again. It was normal for a sheltered housewife like me to feel overwhelmed. Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face as I pleaded with the doctor. You have to save them. At this point, I didn't care about appearances anymore and revealed Kennedy's identity. The one inside is your hospital's chairman. Kennedy, I need you to arrange for the best surgeon. I will reward you handsomely as long as you can save them. The doctor looked troubled. All the expert doctors in the hospital have been called away by General Manager Charlie for a consultation. We can't perform the surgery today. My head buzzed. What? Heard that Charlie's fiancé had a heart attack. He's been frantic and took everyone with him. I trembled as I took out my phone and quickly called Charlie. No one answered. No one picked up. With tear-filled eyes, I looked at the doctor and asked, Were they having the consultation? In the VIP room on the top floor, the doctor said sympathetically. But you can't get in. It's heavily guarded. Surrounded by many bodyguards. Not even a fly can get in. I didn't care. I rushed toward the elevator, heading straight for the top floor. Clementine, worried about me, followed closely behind. Sure enough, as soon as I exited the elevator, I was stopped by several bodyguards in black. Sorry, the area is restricted. Unauthorized personnel cannot approach. I quickly revealed my identity. I'm Kennedy's wife, the mother of Charlie. But the bodyguards were as unyielding as wooden blocks. It doesn't matter who you are. No one is allowed in. Clementine reminded me. Ida, show them a picture of you and General Manager Charlie. I hurriedly pulled out my phone. After flipping through my photos for what felt like an eternity, I broke into a cold sweat. I realized that I had no photos with Charlie at all. He had never liked taking pictures. Every time I tried to take a photo with him, he would look at me with disdain and say, Mom, you really seem like a useless face. Is taking pictures your only hobby? But later, I discovered many photos of him with Kennedy, and even with Delia. I realized that Charlie didn't dislike taking photos. He just didn't want to take them with me. My heart felt shattered, full of wounds. Memories were like festering wounds. Just a slight touch sent sharp pangs through my heart. I forced myself to stay calm and said, I just got a new phone and didn't save any photo. The tall male bodyguard snickered, as if he had seen through my ruse, his face filled with contempt. I've met many who claim to be our boss girlfriend, but you're the first to claim to be his mother. Quite new angle you've got. The female bodyguard raised her voice mockingly. You can't even produce a single photo. You're not even convincing. It's laughable. I really am Charlie's mother. I couldn't hold back my tears and showed them Charlie's WeChat. Look, I still have him on WeChat. However, due to us having blocked each other previously, all the chat history was gone. The group of bodyguards burst into laughter, their expressions even more disdainful. Just create a random account and call yourself General Manager Charlie's mother? At your age, you should read fewer romance novels. And don't blame us for being rude if you keep bothering us. Thinking of my husband still lying on the hospital bed, uncertain of his fate, I knew I couldn't sit idly by. I suddenly pushed the female bodyguard aside, trying to rush in, but another bodyguard grabbed me firmly. Damn it, idiot passed us. We're out of a job. A few bodyguards were about to take action against me. Clementine quickly raised her phone and shouted, I'm a blogger with 1 million followers, and I'm recording a video. Hearing this, the bodyguards hesitated and stopped. I seized the opportunity to pull Clementine along and dashed inside. With the bodyguards hot on our heels, we sprinted to the consultation room and finally saw Charlie. He was impeccably dressed in it, sitting at the main seat with a serious expression. Surrounded by a room full of expert doctors, tears instantly streamed down my face. All the fears I had held throughout the day were released the moment I saw him. I rushed to Charlie. Shokan, come on. Let's go. Seeing me, Charlie furrowed his brow, as if it were second nature. What are all those bodyguards doing at the entrance? Drenched in sweat, bowed in unison and apologized to him. Sorry, General Manager Charlie. We messed up. This crazy woman insists she's your mother and has been trying to barge in. We were going to take her away. We suspect she might have some mental issues and could have escaped from the psychiatric department. Charlie's frown deepened, a sign of his impending anger. What are you talking about? The bodyguards trembled and tried to pull me roughly, attempting to drag me out. Well, take her away right now. I became furious and shoved them away, kicking Charlie hard. Unfilial son. Get down on your knees. I rarely got angry. When I did, Kennedy would transfer money to placate me. While Charlie had his unique way of apologizing, Charlie clenched his teeth, his face shifting with emotion. Finally, he slowly knelt in front of me. Please calm down. The bodyguards were dumbfounded by this scene, their legs trembling even more. Wait, General Manager Charlie. Is she really your mother? Is she really the president's wife? How could we be so blind? This is the end of our careers. Charlie shouted at them. Get out of here. I'll deal with you later. I ignored them and urgently told Charlie, get a doctor to save your dad. He's really in danger. Can you please stop making a scene? Charlie pinched the bridge of his nose in exhaustion, looking at me expressionlessly. Ella's having a heart attack and is in critical condition. Please. Mom. Add to my troubles during this crucial moment. I know you don't like Ella, but lives are at. You can do whatever you want normally, but I absolutely won't allow you to cause chaos at a time like this. I hesitated for a moment, then started to cry again. Ella's life is important. Doesn't your dad's life matter? Do we really need so many doctors for a heart condition? Can't you spare a few doctors for your dad? Just as we were in the middle of this heated exchange, Ella suddenly appeared from somewhere, dressed in a hospital gown. Her face and lips were pale as paper, radiating a sense of fragility. Charlie's eyes flashed with concern as he quickly stood up to support her. Why are you out of bed? You should be resting. We'll operate on you once the consultation is over. Ella looked up at him, smiling softly like a pure white gardenia. I heard a commotion here and got worried, so I came to check. As she spoke, she turned to me, and tears filled her eyes, falling like pearls. Auntie, please don't be mad at Charlie. It's my fault for being so fragile that it caused all this commotion. I was dumbfounded. How could this girl cry on command? Even better than I could. I hadn't done anything at all. Charlie didn't like it when I cried, but he seemed to enjoy it when Ella did. But I couldn't focus on that anymore. Seeing Ella was like grasping a lifeline. So I held her hand tightly and said gravely, "That, your mom is dying too." Ella's stares fell even more violently. She clutched her chest, on the verge of collapse, playing the weak beauty to perfection. "Auntie, why do you hate us mother and daughter so much? My mom and Uncle Kennedy are just friends. Doesn't Uncle Kennedy have the right to make friends?" She heartbroken threw herself into Charlie's arms, crying as if her heart was shattered. This drove Charlie to a state of panic as he gently embraced her. "Please don't cry. Your heart won't be able to handle it." Ella shook her head but cried even harder. Charlie shot me a furious glare, his voice sharp. "Are you satisfied now? How could I have a mother like you? All my life, I've wished Aunt Delia was my real mom. Aunt Delia would make me paper airplanes and prepare dumplings for me. But what about you? Have you ever cooked a meal for me?" My heart felt like it was being sliced apart. When Charlie was young and picky about food, I changed chefs for him over a dozen times, tasting poison to figure out what foods were good for his stomach and which were irritating. This ultimately led to my own weak stomach and gastritis. Yet all these sacrifices seemed worthless in Charlie's eyes compared to the dumplings Aunt Delia made. Tears filled my eyes as I smiled foolishly. "So you want Delia to be your real mom? Then you and Ella would be siblings. What? You like forbidden love?" Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." Charlie's face darkened to the point of being expressionless. "You're simply being ridiculous." One of the doctors couldn't stand it anymore and cautiously stepped forward. "General Manager Charlie, why don't I go down and take a look?" Other doctors chimed in. "It'll be easy to see if it's true or not. If the lady is lying, she can just come back up. It won't take long." Charlie's anger radiated as he declared, "No one is allowed to go. Whoever dares to take matters into their own hands will be fired immediately. All hospitals in S City will never hire you again." With that, the atmosphere in the consultation room became suffocating. Just then, my phone rang. I answered it like a zombie. It was Clementine's despondent voice on the other end. "Ida, Brother Lou and his mistress are dead. You don't need to look for a doctor anymore." The phone slipped from my hands, shattering into pieces on the ground. I looked at Charlie in despair and screamed, "You killed your dad? Are you happy now? I can't believe I gave birth to such a heartless son. I don't want you anymore. Charlie, from now on, I sever all ties with you." Seeing the heartbreak on my face, Charlie's expression shifted. He seemed a bit shaken. He wanted to step forward to support me, but Ella suddenly fainted, her eyes rolling back. I returned to the ward below, looking haggard. Clementine came over and hugged me. "Ida, don't be too upset. Take care of yourself." I smiled faintly. "I'm fine. I can hold on. All last funeral arrangements still need me." She glanced at my empty expression and said indignantly, "Even at a time like this, your son still doesn't believe you? That's really too much." I remained silent, completely disappointed in Charlie. At this point, I regretted having a son instead of a piece of char-siu. I wished I could take my kidney back. I steeled myself and contacted Kennedy's secretary to issue a public obituary. The secretary hesitated on the phone. "I know about the argument you had with General Manager Charlie today. You fighting is causing us trouble." I replied calmly, "So you don't believe Kennedy is dead either? You could just make a phone call to find out. Couldn't you?" The secretary sighed helplessly. "To be honest, I booked the tickets for General Manager Kennedy and Ms. Delia to go to Coxsackie. So according to the timeline, he's already there now. The signal there is poor. So it's normal that you can't reach him. Does Charlie know?" General Manager Charlie knows too. No wonder Charlie wouldn't believe a word I said. It turned out the whole world knew that Kennedy was in Coxsackie having an affair with Delia while I was left in the dark. I turned to Clementine. "Clementine, please help me publicize today's events as much as possible. The bigger the fuss, the better. Let's drive down Kennedy Group stock price. Clementine was just a self-media blogger. She also owned a media company and had a wealth of resources at her disposal. If you help me with it, I'll invest in your previous project. Clementine's eyes lit up. Okay, Ida. This is exclusive big news. To be honest, I've been itching to do something about it. She quickly made a few calls to arrange the work. I walked over to Kennedy's body and pulled down the white cloth covering his face, staring at his lifeless face. My eyes reddening as I began to mutter to myself, "Hun, I know you're a person of dignity, but I had no choice. It's bad enough that our son killed you. He also killed your first love. You must be heartbroken and devastated. If you'd help your beloved lover take revenge, then let me help you. After all, I'm your wife. Don't worry. I will definitely make Charlie and Ella pay the price. You can rest in peace." As I spoke, I started to cry again. "Oh husband, you died such a tragic death." Kennedy's funeral was arranged entirely by the butler, lavishly and with great fanfare. It was conducted in a grand manner, impressively displayed. Yet, no matter how glamorous one's life was, in death, they merely turned to dust. Meanwhile, the scandals involving Kennedy and Charlie were being sensationalized by the media, constantly trending on various platforms. Kennedy Group president found dead in a car accident. General manager Charlie kills his father. A great filial son from beginning to end. Charlie neither attended his father's funeral nor showed up for work. I heard that Ella was afraid of the anesthesia during her surgery. To express his love, Charlie decided to accompany her by taking 2 doses of anesthesia every day. Sleeping for a full week, it was chaotic and hard to assess. While everyone was in disarray, I stood up to stabilize the situation within the group. What Kennedy and Charlie didn't know was that all these years, I hadn't been traveling abroad for pleasure. I'd actually started my own company overseas. When I first had the idea to start a business, my father was very supportive. "Daughter, while Kennedy may be the harbor I chose for you, in this world, besides yourself, you could rely on anyone else. Relying on mountains means they may fall. The fact that you thought of starting your own business makes me really proud. Your mother and I can't protect you forever, so while we still can, go ahead and take risks. We will always be your backing." With my father's words, my determination grew stronger. I established a tech company, and as it grew larger, my management skills became more powerful. I'd never mentioned any of this to Kennedy or Charlie. They merely succeeded on the shoulders of their forefathers, looking down their noses at others. Isn't it just business? Is it really that difficult? Under Clementine's and my careful manipulation, public opinion shifted from the scandals of Kennedy Group to the mysterious woman behind it, to universities, supporting impoverished students for over a decade. Diligently working as an ordinary librarian, more and more people came for me. The institutions I had worked for and the many outstanding graduates I had sponsored were now the backbone of Kennedy Group, and they were all mine, with half of the shareholders being those who had originally helped my father establish his career. Now, public sentiment was in my favor. Amidst every owner's spontaneous support, the image of a 60-year-old woman was established, betrayed by her husband and with a son who cowled at sea clearly. But why should a woman rely on a man? A woman can rely on herself. Viewers watching this drama felt invigorated. The woman among women, the queen among queens. This is what a great woman looks like. General Manager Rita is far better than those 2 scoundrels. She's beautiful and has charm. I support General Manager Rita. She's been doing charity work, helping so many impoverished families. For that alone, I will never criticize her. Public opinion shifted again. After I took over the group, the continuously declining stock prices quickly rose again. By the time Charlie realized what was happening, it was already too late. This woman, whom they saw as merely a weepy aristocrat, could hold up the whole world without them. That day, I was in a meeting with the shareholders when Charlie burst in. His eyes red, then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." "Mom, you're lying to me. Dad isn't dead, right?" I frowned. With his scruffy beard and wrinkled suit, he looked like a homeless man under a bridge. I replied coldly, I told you long ago. You just didn't believe me. The secretary, being very competent, immediately projected the news video on the screen. In the video, I was crying my heart out, devastated, repeatedly pleading with Charlie to save me. In contrast, Charlie appeared cold and domineering, declaring that anyone who dared to go would be fired. The stark contrast vividly portrayed the image of a foolish man. Once the video was released, it was akin to a public execution. The shareholders present were all elders of Charlie. Due to the recent turmoil within the company, they were already dissatisfied with him and had been looking for an outlet to express their frustration. Now that he had shown up, they all began to voice their criticism. Have you lost your mind? General Manager Ida begged you like that. And she's your own mother. Truly. Like father. Both of them are completely ensnared by the same pair of vixens. You didn't show up when your father was dying. And now that he's dead, you come to pretend to be a filial son. Charlie staggered back a few steps, holding his head in his hands. His face contorted in agony as he muttered to himself, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You must all be colluding to trick me as expected of a good son of the Kennedys. He was indeed deeply attached to his father. I had the secretary hand him a document. It contained evidence of Ella pretending to have a heart condition and bribing doctors. Ella did indeed have a heart condition, but it was mild and not life-threatening. Because Charlie was especially compassionate towards her due to her condition, she manipulated him effortlessly, playing the role of a sickly beauty to perfection. Having tasted the sweetness of Ella aimed to enhance her persona. In her capacity as the future young mistress of the Kennedy Group, she bribed all the doctors at the group's affiliated hospital, ensuring everyone played along with her act, while only Charlie, the fool, was completely deceived. This time, Ella hadn't even undergone any heart surgery. She merely wanted to annoy me by pretending to be gravely ill, monopolizing all medical resources. Both Kennedy and Delia were completely destroyed by their overzealous children. This evidence was irrefutable, delivering a devastating blow to Charlie. His face went pale, and he crumpled to the ground, as if all the spirit had been drained from him. I looked down at him from above and delivered the final blow. Your father didn't have to die. You set him down that path yourself. Suddenly, Charlie screamed and rushed out like a madman. That evening, I was having dinner with Clementine when she casually glanced at her phone and exclaimed. She handed me her phone. Charlie had once again skyrocketed to the top of the trending list. Clicking and I saw a video. Ella had been stabbed multiple times and lay dead at Kennedy's grave, her upper body bare, her hands tied behind her back, in a kneeling posture as if an apology. Meanwhile, Charlie was covered in blood, surrounded by dozens of police cars as they cuffed him. Media reporters stood outside the cordon, flashbulbs popping, frantically asking him to say something. Charlie faced the camera and slowly said, Tell my mom I'm not a coward. I'm not a coward. Super Prince. The two hashtags exploded into trending topic, with netizens passionately commenting, What the hell? Is Charlie playing abstract art? Charlie is really insane. This is what happens to the daughter of a mistress. Some poetic all the rotten people are dead. Now General Manager Ida has no one to drag her down and can take on the world. I sighed. What a good family. Some dead. Leaving me, a wealthy widow, to inherit billions. Life feels so lonely. It really is too lonely. Charlie was sentenced to life imprisonment, and I never visited him in prison, not even once. Mainly because I was too busy. At 60, it was the prime age for forging ahead. I renamed the Kennedy Group to the Lang Group, focusing on the business development. I was constantly on the go, and the company's performance soared. Those who had once doubted me were speechless when they saw such impressive results. In my spare time, I also dated various types of younger men. I tried out all kinds of little puppy dogs and wolves. Each time, I would light a few incense sticks for Kennedy and chat with him. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. This little puppy is very obedient and knows how to provide emotional support. Unlike you with your sharp tongue. Hubby, This little wolf has great stamina. Unlike your frailty. I'm too scared to date anyone who looks like you, for fear of having nightmares. Speaking of nightmares, I indeed had one. That night, Kennedy came to me in a dream, his face ashen with anger, telling me not to make a scene. He was waiting for me at the Nahoo Bridge for 100 years, to reincarnate together and continue being a couple in the next life. I woke up terrified. After all, at home, I was a wealthy lady with a small heart, easily frightened. I immediately found I was priest to help him move on. Yet he had committed to many sins and was destined to be reborn as an animal. I breathed the sigh of relief. Being reborn as an animal was good care and without the worries of being human. For example, my biggest worry was that I owned a fortune of billions all by myself. How could I possibly spend it all?